Comission came into the, she was like, she started.
The meeting room is muted.
Sarah, can you hear us? Right, exactly. Other one.
Thank
Do
you.
sound check. Yep, or Briar. Can you guys hear us okay?
In the car.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Thinking of that.
Right.
I'm gonna go ahead and turn.
Not that much explored. No long show.
We are booting no takers.
Stuff,
But it'll be new for us.
but it's new.
It's beautiful.
It's really beautiful.
I'm gonna start playing.
Possibly
Huh?
we kicking no takers.
Does that mean?
We usually don't have them come in for.
You know, it's a new, can't say it. Straight across. It's west.
Oh. So maybe
Yeah,
we went there once.
well, just up in the smooth
river
channels.
and down.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's very,
Was that,
that's awesome.
it's,
Yeah, I'm so surprised I'm gonna try to tap.
yeah. Well, no, Susan,
It's not the story thing.
no. Describe, you go out there
Oh, thank you.
west, road that I seven. Let's see.
Let's see. One, two, three, four, five.
So that's there. Depending on the interest. Horrible footage. You seriously misunderstand.
It is.
Oh, really?
Have more.
The survey was hilarious. I think I showed you.
Just a moment, everybody.
You can walk through that. You have to. Just arm meeting. But it's so weird.
You would agree with me.
The road that goes already.
No. It's right across from the grocery outlet.
And it's showing more towards the ocean.
Yeah.
You just like, yeah.
It's a good speed.
And then it's really good.
One. Good. Nice.
Yeah.
I'll send you, I'm gonna write me something, I'll send you.
Hey, Nan.
Hey, the sound is reverberating like crazy.
Oh, let me see if I can take care of that.
It's strange. It's like echoing and echoing.
Is the echoing still occurring?
Not for me.
Yeah, not for me either.
Okay, great.
Good dick.
Not sure what I did on that one.
Okay.
Please let us know if it comes back. I've been online for meetings when that happened. It's different. And it's not fun.
corporate bank t-shirt. Gotta be fair.
All right, Dave.
I haven't gone to the fair ever here. I should. My neighbors always go to the big Ford thing.
Or they canceled it last night because of the rain.
Really?
I didn't know it could be canceled.
They canceled.
On their 100.
Right?
And the horse racing.
Oh, slipping and things like that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's Friday, right?
I've
Or
never
was that
been
last
to
night?
taken
That was
forward.
like last night.
In terms of like bus.
Oh,
Nice.
And it goes to like a, I don't know.
Hoping to as well, maybe you'll see that.
Oh, I see. So it said 1-0.
Yeah.
Because my neighbors always go to the fair.
The fair, but they still here.
Yeah,
Lazy.
even in the north.
I saw it on,
Did that go with like?
I imagine. I should go once. Just.
it's kind
Oh,
of just
some-
an experience.
some
Just to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you go to the landing?
No, I didn't even know about it. Saw it online.
Exactly, yeah. Sure. Yeah.
When did three flyovers and he came and landed, then he went to take off, he just like stopped.
You know, Mark, I think we can get going. Sarah will be in at the moment. And
Okey-doke.
I think we're
Good to go.
good to go.
So we're all online and everything.
Yes.
Recording.
Yeah, these start recording right when we open them up, so.
Oh, okay. Well, let's start the meeting at, looks like 9:09 on Thursday, August 7th, 2025. I'm Mark Kessler. Our chair could not be here, so as vice chair, I'll be leading the meeting today. So welcome, and let's start with introductions.
My name is Parker Sammons. I am the Tillamook County Housing Coordinator.
I'm Dave Bennett, South County Representative.
Kristen Cuttier, member at large. I'm on the Finance Committee and the Outreach Committee.
Gail Uzell, member at large, South County.
Okay, so anyone, there are a lot of people online, so, would commissioners, Parker, can you see? I can't see who.
Start with Dave Madison.
Dave Madison, commission member at large for Bay City.
Sarah?
Maybe. Sarah Dental, I'm a Housing Commission member and I am a member of the real estate community.
Megan?
Megan Carpenter, City of Tillamook representative.
Nan? Nan?
Oh, sorry, still blurring is weird. Sorry, Nan Devlin, Executive Director, Tillamook Coast Visitors Association. Thanks.
Brian?
Briar Smith, nonprofit representative.
Members of the public in the room first?
Rich Brackey, Bigger Idea.
And online, let's start with Adam.
Good morning, everyone. Adam Nielsen, City of Tillamook, City Engineer.
And Rita?
Rita Haberman, Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, Built Environment Program.
I'm sorry, I missed Heidi earlier. Heidi? Oh, there she is.
Hi, Heidi Holzgraf, representative, South County.
And let's see, who else is online? Lydia?
Good morning, everyone. Lydia Ivanovich, Programs Manager with Columbia Pacific Economic Development District, your fellow friendly district representing Tillamook County. Thank you.
Hi, Parker. This is Jeff Wong, CS Fishery and Anchor 282 project.
Good morning, Jeff. Lisa? Corin.
Hi, sorry about running late.
Lisa, I don't know if we can hear you. And is there anyone else who I have not called that would like to introduce themselves? Oh, Aaron. There's Aaron.
Good morning. Sorry to be late as well. Commissioner Scarf, Tillamook County Commissioner and liaison to this group.
And city planner, I believe that's Rockaway.
Yeah, apologies for the anonymity. I still need to figure out my my teams, but yes, this is Abram Tappy. I'm the city planner for the city of Rockaway Beach.
Thank you.
And this is Todd Johnston, member of the public, also working on the Rockaway 282 development project.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay. Anyone else who needs to introduce themselves? I'll ask everybody to stay on mute unless you're speaking, and I might mute you if there's noise coming through. So just be mindful of that. And yeah.
Okay, so at this point, we do a mission minute, which is comments about anything that has come up that might be housing related and of interest. Anyone have a mission minute or second or two? Got anything, Parker?
Well, it's hard to tell it's an agenda item.
Oh, right.
Sometimes.
Well, I attended the League of Oregon Cities meeting, I guess, last Friday here in Tillamook. It was very interesting. I'd never been to a League of Oregon Cities meeting. And they have a really interesting agenda and presentation on challenges cities are facing. And it was coastal, it was regional. So it was relevant specifically to us too. That cities face a lot of fiscal issues that we all know about, but it's relevant to housing, of course, because if there's no money, there's no housing. And I think it was they're a great resource that is tangential, but not as much so as I had thought to housing. Does anyone else got non-agenda?
Sure, I'll mention something. Subdivision that was proposed for the city of Bay City has been appealed and will go before City Council, Bay City City Council, on the 19th of August.
Thanks for the update, Dave. 19th of August.
5:30.
Okay, well. So next would be public comment in the room. Any public comment?
Happy to be here.
Okay. Online public, any comments?
Hi, this is Lydia again. I just want to take this public comment opportunity to announce to the group that CoalPack is starting to send out marketing for our housing summit this fall. That's September 22nd. It's going to be an entire day digging deep into strategies, solutions, case studies, financing opportunities for driving housing development of all shapes and sizes in our community. There'll be breakout sessions. We'll be partnering with our public agencies and have a lot of opportunities for our building community to get engaged and find resources. So the meeting chat is disabled. Otherwise, I'd put the registration link, but I'm happy to follow up with this group with a link about the event and what you might expect. But we're really excited to be putting this on. And so it'd be awesome to see some of y'all there. So.
It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you.
What date was that again?
September 22nd. It's going to be hosted at the Astoria Holiday Inn. And there'll be some refreshments in the morning, and we'll be having local lunch catered by Gaetano's in town. So I'm excited for that.
Oh.
I'm excited for a lot about that.
Okay. no other comment, I guess we can move to Parker with HNA update.
So it has me, but the presenter today is actually going to be Todd and Tim, who joined us before and gave us a preliminary, and they're here to present the final bits here. Good morning, Todd and Tim. You guys wouldn't mind introducing yourselves, and then I believe you should be able to share a screen. Which one of you guys is going to be doing it?
I will.
Tim.
All right, make sure that you're able to share your screen.
And yeah, as a means of introduction, hi, I'm Tim Wood. I'm a project manager with FCS Group. Helped you all in the past with countywide HNA, and happy to be able to update our work for you and share the results today.
Yep, and Todd Chase, I'm Principal Economist FCS. Great to see everybody. And coming to Tillamook this weekend, I hear it's going to be sunny. So.
Okay, great. I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah.
Let me know if that works. Okay, great. Give me just one second. Okay, great. So yeah, just here to bring the results of the final report to you. Some of this is going to be a review for most of you. We presented to you not too long ago. And so just providing you some updates on the data and some of the tweaks that we made based on the feedback that you provided, and kind of just give you a sense of the wrap up here. So agenda is just providing those data updates, sharing the revised housing forecast scenarios, and then summary of the key findings that we took away from the latest study.
Hey, Tim, let me just jump in real quick and say I wasn't able to print out the most updated one you sent me at the end of the day yesterday. So if you just call out what's the difference between those two as we hit it.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Sorry, thank you.
So the main issue that we want to tackle in these sorts of studies is accommodating future population. And according to the state, we're expecting to see about 2,000 more people in Tillamook County so basically the population will grow about 2 grand from 2025 to 2045. So pretty significant growth to have to accommodate over that stretch of time. To review some of the really good news we feel like we are seeing from this study. The main, well, not the main, but one of the big outcomes here is we're seeing a big shift away from seasonal and vacant housing. So bringing year-round housing out of that seasonal category and into year-round. And I think the main thing that we've noticed here is it's not so much that there's more construction happening necessarily as it is a shift from the former seasonal and vacant housing stock, about 8,000 here in 2020, down to 7,276. So about 800 units dropping and moving from the seasonal category to the year-round category. As you can see, we're adding roughly 800 units in the year-round category there. So great, and I think a testament to the work that this commission has done, that the county's been spearheading over the last 5 years to really sort of bring up the stock of year-round housing for folks that live in the county year-round for the workforce. So great news there. More great news is that local incomes are increasing pretty significantly. So you can see in both the city of Tillamook and Tillamook County, we're seeing pretty significant uptrends, including a 5.7% annual increase over the last 10 years in median household income in Tillamook County, which is pretty remarkable. 5.7% annual. I don't know, Todd, if you've got any precedent for that, but that's a big increase. So and that really helps obviously defray some of the issues of increasing cost of living in a place like Tillamook County.
It's a good increase. Home prices have been going up till the last few years, a little bit faster than that.
Yeah.
In this next chart, you see that.
And that's where the challenge still remains for us and for the county. While incomes have increased about 5.7% annually, median home values have increased about 7.3% annually. So in spite of really, really healthy income growth, the cost of living in particular as it relates to housing is increasing just as fast. And some calculations that we did, using kind of a mortgage calculator, would suggest that an income of about $106,000 would be needed to afford a median home, a median valued home in Tillamook County. So there's still plenty of work to do here with respect to housing affordability. I don't think that anyone's shocked that housing prices have increased significantly over the last 10 years. From not just the general increase that we saw pre-pandemic, but then the post-pandemic increase in Tillamook County was pretty significant. So some pretty unique circumstances to be battling here, but that's something that we want to remain aware of. And you can see that throughout the county in all the different markets, you're seeing these pretty enormous increases, roughly doubling in many of the communities inside of the county. So this challenge is not just countywide, it's in every city, it's in every unincorporated community. So certainly something to keep on striving for there. Another piece of data that we've already reviewed, but we wanted to kind of bring back before you, is that rent burdens are now lower than the statewide average and have in fact improved since our last study. So to review, rent burden is essentially when a household is spending more than 30% of its annual income on housing, with severe rent burden representing households that are spending 50% or more on rent. So you can see here that many of these communities, including Manzanita there, with a 60% share of severely rent burdened households, means that 60% of their renter households are spending 50% or more of their income on rent. The good news there is that with the project that is under consideration there in Manzanita, a workforce rental housing opportunity would essentially eliminate that, because 60 units is greater than the population of folks that are experiencing severe rent burden. So even though this says 60%, it's a small share of the total number of people who are living in Manzanita. So that's a testament to the importance of the work that you guys are doing, that a project like that could essentially erase something that's this dire, is pretty great and should really provide a lot of motivation for everybody involved to keep pushing for stuff like this, because it's not just in Manzanita. You're seeing this in Wheeler, and even though these are 30 to 50% households households that are spending 30 to 50% of their income on rent in Rockaway and city of Tillamook, you've still got folks who are struggling to afford housing. So keep pushing on the things that you're doing, because they're really innovative and they're really important. Another check on cost burden. This is a look at mortgage cost burden. So essentially the same conditions. You're spending 30% or more of your annual income on mortgage. And then for severe cost burden, that's folks spending 50% or more of their annual income. And you can see that you've got a pretty significant share of a lot of these communities that are experiencing some form of cost burden. Less severe cost burden in this case, which you'd expect, since over time those mortgages look better and better. After 10 years, that cost looks a little bit better. But again, to sort of highlight some of the innovative work that you all are considering, here you've got a community like Bay City, where you've got 32% of folks with a mortgage experiencing cost burden. Well, with this UGB expansion and the requirements around that's under consideration there, that would do a lot to alleviate this condition here, because a lot of that would be somewhat deed restricted and constructed to be affordable to folks who are making a certain percentage of the area median income. So again, just a testament to how important this work is, and what moving the needle in these kind of in all these different instances can really do to impact this bottom line data, which is a tough situation to find yourself in. But you guys are finding ways to fight that, and it's pretty impressive. Really quickly wanted to review a couple of the data points that we added to our housing needs projection. The workforce housing needs for this community, and again, we've reviewed this already, but I wanted to hammer this point home. You've got a huge share of your workers that are commuting 100+ miles a day. So you've got 9,140 total jobs in Tillamook County. Of those, 2,314 are traveling 100+ miles to work. Now that's to and from, but it's still a significant commute, and suggests that folks are commuting from the Portland metropolitan area, potentially Longview. We saw a lot of that. Folks that are commuting in from southern communities, the Salem metropolitan area, long distances, and that suggests that there's demand for workforce housing in Tillamook County that goes above and beyond what exists today. I don't think that I'm breaking any news there, but still something that's really important and a fine point to put on it. You've got folks commuting a long distance, and I think the vast majority of those people would probably prefer to live a little closer to their work. So part of what our analysis did was take a look at little capture rate analysis for the next 20 years. How many of these can we potentially bring in to the county? Bring folks closer to their workforce. So we said, well, we'll have a range of between 15 and 25% of that demand to get captured, and so basically adding between 150 and 250 additional dwelling units on top of the housing needs forecast for the population growth is part of what we did in this analysis. And likewise, we took a look at what we call a rental market gap analysis, which is basically to say we're taking a look at kind of existing rental units, and that's what's in this column here, the estimated available rental units, and the renter-occupied households, and they're broken down by income there. So what we're showing is that there's way more folks on the top end, making between $50,000 and above $1,000 a year. There's a pretty significant gap, especially on the very top end, of what folks can afford and what's available in the market. And so, it's sort of counterintuitive to people to think, well, we need more upper end rental units, but you can see here that there's 830 households that could afford higher cost rental units, and only 275 units that exist in the county that look like that. And that results in these gaps. So on the top end, you've got 454 unit gap, and that results in folks renting down or folks renting from this middle category, which of course increases competition for your more affordable rental units, pushing these folks down further as well. So just this kind of cascading effect. So, and we've also identified a less surprising gap on the bottom end, mostly subsidized units of about 288. So, there's sort of two ends that you can attack this rental market gap on. The upper end, where you sort of it's market rate, and then on the bottom end where it's more government subsidized units. So sort of an interesting thing to consider there. And again, for our purposes, we asked, okay, well, let's just assume that the county could capture 50% of this demand that exists today going forward over the next 20 years. And so that adds another 227 units on the top end and 144 on the bottom end for a total of 371. So just a couple of augmentations that we'd like to make to these calculations typically. And that results in this 20-year housing needs forecast. And I'll walk you through this really quickly. So we're bringing back that addition of 2,043 net new population there over the next 20 years. We net out folks living in group quarters. So that's folks living in congregate care facilities, in dormitories, that kind of thing, more dorm related stuff. So that you subtract out that 61 to determine the population in households of about 1,982. Divide that by the average household size of 2.21 people per dwelling unit to determine a year-round housing demand for net new units of about 900. Then we make an adjustment for seasonal and vacant units, which is roughly 39% of the units in the county right now. So basically just saying, all right, well, we need an allowance for those. So that's an additional 575 units for a baseline total of 1,471 units. But we bring back those pent-up demand figures for market rate apartments, the 227 from there, the government assisted units, the 144 there, the 154 units for 100+ mile commuters, and then we pull in those group quarters populations to bring that net housing demand of about 2,057. So pretty big lift for the county to build, roughly 100 units a year. And then we decided, okay, let's take a look at this from a north, central, and south perspective, since these markets are pretty different from each other. So on the north end, you've got your, communities like Manzanita and Wheeler, and then everything out east. Then in the central area, you've got more Garibaldi, Bay City, City of Tillamook. And then on the south end, you've got Neskowin and Beaver and these sorts of places. So probably a little more sparse with respect to how much housing there is on the south. And we've run it through a few different lenses, and your input was really crucial here, because we brought this before you a month or two ago. What we heard was we want to see the north and the south take on more of that demand than the initial calculations showed. So we got that from, I think, about 1,100 units in the central county area down to about 909, and we divided those out between the south and the north. So both of these portions of the county took on a little more. You can see that here with this pie chart and on this table. And you also let us know that you think we probably want to look more at middle housing. So we added a larger share of single family attached, these plexes, the 2 to 4 unit, duplex, triplex, quadplex type units, and then more in the multifamily category, and took those out of single family detached. So even though it's still predominantly central county and predominantly single family detached that we're seeing, those are both significantly less than they were when we talked earlier. So this forecast, I hope, is a little closer to what you all would have expected. And another way that you requested that we take a look at this is through the lens of income. So taking kind of existing income brackets and then doing a little bit of rejiggering based on, the things that we were talking about. We need government subsidized units. We probably need more workforce units for those 100+ mile commuters. And so the breakdown looks like this from, we typically look at these in housing through the lens of upper middle, lower middle, low, very low. And those are just different strata of the area median income. So upper income, that's folks making 120% of the area median income, and on down. So you see a lot of the demand is in that upper category, but that's not shocking. After one, we saw that there's quite a bit of demand in that at baseline, and then two, we saw that market gap on the top end for rentals. 438 in the upper middle category, so that's folks probably making about $80,000 a year. Lower middle, 350 or so units, those are folks probably making closer to like 50. And then the low and very low, those are probably government subsidized units, totaling about 550 units there. And we've provided some attainable housing product examples here, but this is really wherever you can fit them in. So obviously a lot of demand still for single family detached in the county, but an increasing demand for stuff like small lot homes, small lot single family detached, and then those middle housing products on down to multifamily, which probably hits upper middle and lower middle categories. And then we're probably looking at government assisted units and potentially some creative uses of accessory dwelling units and cottage clusters in those low and very low categories. And a quick summary of sort of what we've seen here over the stretch of time doing this study is, there's a lot of really big successes that the county ought to celebrate, including those 800 units that moved from seasonal back to year-round housing. It's just a great move. Increasing household incomes. As we said, that's a pretty unusual percentage in terms of household incomes to see that increase. And then finally, a lower share of significant cost burdens for renters. you know, it's the shift from 22 to 18% might feel a little small, but it's a huge difference for people who live in the county. So a lot to celebrate there. We're going to need about 2,000 more units over the next 20 years to just meet baseline demand. So that's a call to action, I think, for all the communities in the county, as well as the county, in finding ways that we can not just build single family detached to address that need, but find creative ways to work in townhomes and plexes. And I know that that can be tedious too, but it's really worth it. You're going to start looking as a county at housing production measures through the countywide housing production strategy and housing capacity analysis that you're going to undertake over the next little bit. So this is a great opportunity to sort of start that conversation, talk about what policies make sense for the county, and how the county can work to increase the production of housing in general, and especially in those middle housing categories. And that's across the board. You know, we're going to need to see that in the north, the central, and in the south too. So it's going to require a mix of solutions, and in some cases, you're probably going to have to go city by city. So it's going to be a challenge, but you know, luckily you'll have some capable consultants helping you with the housing capacity analysis and the housing production strategy, and you've got a great staff on hand too. So that's really helpful. Federal and state grants are going to be crucial to creating more affordable housing developments. The county's done a really good job with leveraging those already, but I think that's something that's going to continue to need to happen in order for, you know, a lot of these, especially on that, you know, lower end of the income spectrum, to address those needs it's going to require a lot of outside funding. So that's for staff to think about, but I think it's also to include in this study and in future studies that you're doing, so that you can use that as sort of a means to lobby for yourself, saying, we need this money, we've documented demand for people who need assistance, and so you need to help this county out. And you know, in the document we've provided sort of some beginning thoughts on policies that you might consider. So when you get the opportunity, if you haven't already, take a look at our report, read through those policy options, and maybe start to consider which ones you think are applicable for each of these cities. Because again, one of these policy solutions might be great for a place like Tillamook, but won't be good for Wheeler, or vice versa. So you know, it's going to require a lot of creativity and a lot of perseverance, I think, to find those policy solutions. But they're there, you know, in this report and in future reports that you're going to have, and in this room, you know, folks such as yourselves are the people who typically create the best ideas, because you know this community better than most anybody. So really important work you're doing, and we hope that we were able to help out a little bit. That's it for my presentation, but I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Tim, this is
Yeah,
Dave.
oh, sorry.
So, wow,
Tim,
there's a lot here.
Dave Madison, why don't you go first?
Thanks. Tim, Todd, thanks for the presentation. I was wondering if you have any percentage for municipalities in each community on the breakdown of needed housing, or do you just leave it at the county-wide and then breakdown of central, south, and north?
We do to a certain degree. So there's a couple ways that we thought about cutting that up, and I think that we have some of these tables in our report. The issue with the main source, which is the state, the DLCD via the Portland State University Population and Research Center. And I think we might have addressed this in the first meeting. Some of their growth projections for communities in Tillamook County are really, really wonky. And those are the numbers often that you kind of have to go with when you're crafting these housing capacity analyses. So that does sort of present a challenge, because there's some communities where you think, well, this doesn't really match reality. And, you know, we can do kind of a fair share assessment of assuming, okay, that the county needs about 2,000 new units, let's spread that out based on existing households or population. And that's a good way to get at it too. But again, it's sort of a 30,000 foot view, which is, I think, why staff and we decided to look at it from a north, central, and south perspective. I think if you're engaging in this countywide housing capacity analysis, you're probably going to have to put a much finer point on which communities are going to take on which number of units. So certainly you'll get more granularity through that study. But again, there are tables that give you a pretty good sense of that in our report.
Great, thanks. Sorry, Dave.
Well, no problem. There's just so much here. It's hard to get it all understood. A couple of things that kind of stick out to me, I just wanted to ask about quickly. And I just noticed we've only got 10 minutes allocated for time.
No, we're going to go way over on that. So
Okay, that's great. Yeah. So let's see, with regard, you mentioned policies. Did we get a copy of the policies that you're recommending?
I think, Tim, if you send me the full report, I was waiting for the very final draft, but I don't think I've posted that yet.
We will have that in front of you by the end of the week, certainly.
I'll posting it. I'll send it out in both an email and an announcement that it's up on the website when it's there.
Okay, that's going to really be important to us. We're anxious to see that. Let's see. So just a couple thoughts for you. This transfer of about 800 homes from seasonal to full time. That's just remarkable to me. And I'm not so sure that it's really a result of our work here. 800 homes.
It's a result of Sarah's work.
Okay. What do you all attribute that to? What's going on?
Thank you, Parker. Do you
That's a
want
good
me to
question.
jump in back to?
Yeah.
Tim, do you want me to answer that?
Yes, please, go ahead.
So in looking at their data, remember we implemented the pause in the county when we went through to rework elements of our short-term rental program. So there were no licenses issued for a very long period of time. When we reopened the program, we had caps established for 21 sub-areas across Tillamook County. And so what we think happened is that goal that we shared through the STR program to look at more manageable growth, to release the pressure valve on a very competitive real estate market between people wanting to buy homes to live here and people who wanted to buy homes as investment properties. That time out and reopening the program the way we did with a limited number of licenses in each area really freed up space in our market, our competitive market, to give others an opportunity to buy these homes.
Wow, that's big. Okay.
Yeah, and that was the ownership limitation. We took away the transferability of new licenses, all, limiting the number of licenses for a multifamily structure. All of that work we did, we think resulted that this is the result.
I'd take it one step further also and just say that it also discouraged the, company, the investment ownership in property out here because of the ownership limits. It removed people who were strictly in property investors who were buying up short-term rentals essentially because that the cash flow wasn't there anymore. And so we have made it the industrial kind of investor is no longer buying up and getting short-term rentals because there's no accessory market, and we've now put good regulation on it to get the amount of it.
Right, and I feel like we found a balance. I'm saying that subjectively because some may not agree, but the whole goal of that was to give families an opportunity to have an investment property that they could use, that they could rent to pay the bills or keep multi-generational homes in families. Maybe the kids don't have the cash flow. So that goal of a more family-focused, oriented, short-term rental vacation market, those stripping out kind of the corporate carrots helped create the scenario that we're seeing through this data today.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
That's a big change in our.
It's a big win.
Yeah.
It's something that I was looking forward to seeing reflected in this data, because it's also something that's hard to see, especially while you're in the middle of it. So it's really good to see the result.
Do we expect that to continue?
Yeah.
Well, and then just to speak to balance, we don't have terribly long reading lists for the license, right?
We don't, with the use it or lose it clause, we're actually right now seeing a pretty rapid turnover because those who are retaining their licenses are now also obligated to rent a minimum number of days in their anniversary year. So that equity of getting rid of golden tickets, you don't hang on to your license as a real estate asset. You either contribute to the local economy by renting, or your license, you can't renew your license. All of those things are creating quicker movement on many of our wait lists.
So it's a good balance. It's not like there's tons of people out there clamoring for SPRs and it's not available to them. And yeah.
And the operator license fee that comes from our short-term rental program is the money the Housing Commission is using. That's also we're seeing come into play into these, into this data and statistics. The project in Manzanita is, I think, right now the shining example of we had a way to meaningfully support that project financially through our short-term rental program. So this is very exciting for me personally, seeing a lot of very quick work that's occurred over the last 5 years with all of you, our efforts, the commissioner's efforts in making those brave decisions about our housing program, about our short-term rental program. In 5 years, this is the snapshot. That's pretty amazing.
It is, yeah.
And one of the things just before we move off that, David, I want to call out is that we've had conversations about why it's difficult for us to know exactly what's in our housing fund coffers. And this is one of the reasons too, because those are the short-term rentals that does fill up our coffers. You can see that it's really dramatically in flux. And so it's hard to predict and it's hard to forecast until it stabilizes. So I just wanted to highlight that for you.
So Jim, what I understand is that we're looking at needing another 2,000 full-time housing units over the next 20 years. And help me understand the data. What do we need now? What is our shortfall now?
Catch up demand.
That's a great question. So I would say if you look at these pent-up demand figures for market rate apartments of 227, the government assisted units 144, and then 100 plus mile commuters of about 150. So let's say it's about 550 units of pent-up demand that we can quantify right now.
Tim, just real quick, he's on slide 12 for people who want to kind of follow him.
Yeah.
That's correct, yes. So all those sort of adjustments that we make at the bottom, or at least the first 3 lines after the initial calculations. So yeah, the 227, the 144, and the 154.
Okay, so if you add those together, then we're looking at about what, 500, 600?
Yeah, between 550 and 600, I think.
Okay, got that. Okay. Just sorry, I don't want to take up too much of the time here. One other thing that kind of impressed me was the gap analysis on page 11.
Mm-hmm.
And we refer to that as we have an eye opener, and it sure is. So with regard to the available units, 275 units available for the folks making 75,000 or more in a household, and there's 830 folks who qualify. What do you know, or maybe Todd knows this, what monthly rent income was somebody, or sorry, what monthly rent cost would somebody in this income range be able to afford? Are we looking at, again, the 30% rule there? Is
right.
Okay, so 30% of $75,000 is about what, a couple grand a month, something like that?
Let's see. So that's,
yeah, it's about 1,900, 2,000 a month.
Okay. And so presumably we have 830 people households that could afford to pay $2,000 a month or perhaps more for apartment rental type housing. Does anybody know what the current market rates are in Tillamook for that kind of housing? Can you get anything for $2,000 a month?
I think I saw it was like 2,400 or something.
2,400? Okay, okay.
I mean, I think rentals are few and far between just in general, and people don't necessarily come across something that falls into their budget. They're more finding whatever comes across their plate that they can end up getting into.
And remember, this does include mobile homes,
Someone else.
manufactured homes as well.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's significant information for developers to know about, at market rate type homes. Okay.
Parker, there's an ES.
I'm sure, let's go Aaron first.
Oh, is that Aaron?
Yeah. Commissioner Scott.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. My question was, we don't have the report in our hands, and maybe this is in there. Do we see the impact of what has been built in the last 5 years as well? We've opened a number of additional housing units, particularly in the government subsidized low income, as well as some in middle housing. And do we see that in here?
I believe that you would see that in the reduction in rent cost burden. So that shift from about 22% of folks spending 50% or more of their income on rent down to 18. So again, not a number that would stop the presses by any means, but a really significant drop and a testament to the work that's been done, to your point.
Perfect. I think we want to make sure that as we're talking about it, we're also highlighting that for folks, that the development that has occurred. So in addition to the changes in the short-term rental market, which is great, but in your presentation today, there was no conversation about the housing that's been built. And I do think it's really an important part of the narrative that we want to have in the community, is that good work is being done on multiple fronts to address this. So again, maybe it's in your report, which we haven't seen yet, but if it's not, I would encourage us to have that in the summary as a key talking point. Thanks.
Will do. Thank you so much for that.
I agree, Aaron. I mean, just as long as we can show we're already working towards the goal. Thanks.
And I think, I guess that's the other thing. In our previous one in 2019, I forget what the pent-up demand was specifically and what the need was specifically, but it would be interesting to compare those numbers to, again, see if in that overall amount, you can begin to see the work that's being done.
It's a really good point. We can make a note to provide some comparison in the text of the report.
Thank you.
I saw another hand raised online. Was there another question online? All right.
And you have a question?
Yeah, I think I answered my own question, looking back at the slide, but I was gonna ask, sorry, I'm Nate Stice, I'm with the Governor's Regional Solutions Program, later on the agenda here. Sorry to interlope, but I was looking at this data, and it's like, it seems like 75 and more is a very big range on there. Like, I'm wondering if there's on the slide 11, if there's any more disaggregated data. And then the question I had was like, what's area median income in Tillamook County? And I think I just found that on the previous slide. So I assume the 75 is like the 1-ish line.
Which slide are you referring to there?
Slide 11.
Okay, so that is
about.
unfortunately a data gap in the census. So when you're looking at this data in particular from these two tables that you use to compare sort of folks paying a certain amount and folks making a certain amount, the 75,000 or more, I share your frustration with how sort of general that is, but that's just, it's those 4 categories, or I guess 6 categories, are provided to us by the census, and there's just no granularity above and beyond that unless we get into the PUMS data, which is a whole different animal.
I have a question for Todd. Todd, as an economist, do you have any thoughts as to how we can kind of together a structure that would work for developers with regard to the $75,000 and above folks with regard to developing units that would be affordable and also would pencil in terms of costs. I think, finding developers that are willing to come here and perhaps address this pent-up demand in that higher range of income need to be able to see that it'll all work financially. Do you have any insights as to how other developers in other parts of the state are addressing this need?
Well, it is a case-by-case basis when we do these types of projects. So the project's going to, on that higher end, it's going to need to have some type of amenity that you're not getting elsewhere. And that could be in terms of access to recreation or views or that type of thing. So yeah, I just think it, and the other thing too is for things to pencil, the developer's going to want a mix of housing types on their site, preferably, so they're not all dependent on one category to generate income in terms of sales. So I think a larger development, other than kind of one house at a time, I think a larger development with like in a PUD, if you could get such a thing around Bay City or Tillamook, could begin to address that type of gap. Otherwise, it's just one unit at a time.
Okay.
Okay, so that everyone is sort of digesting that. Perhaps we should move on to, Chris.
I'm remembering that the previous housing needs analysis, one of the key points that I took away from that was that everybody was stuck. Like people could not move up or down to different housing because it wasn't there. Is that stuckness still a part of our picture, or is that loosened up?
I'd say you've probably loosened up. I think bringing that 800 units back to folks who live in the county full time has created a lot more capability to move around and flexibility. I think there's still similar issues that you're facing with, the rent gap situation, kind of a reduction in other types of development. I'd say there's probably some issues that persist, but I think that the progress that's been made since our last report is very significant.
Looks like there's a mess.
Sarah. Sarah, online?
Oh, there we go. And I think that that's true in the real estate world, like that we're seeing some of that still being stuck, but it has to do a lot more with interest rates right now. When people are sitting with a really good interest rate and seeing what it's going to take for them to switch over to a different property and get rid of their beautiful 2% interest rate that they've got. That's kind of keeping people in this space where they're like, yeah, we'll deal with what we've got going on over here, even if it's not the most ideal situation for us. So that's also another piece that probably is leading to some of that stuck factor.
Yeah, stuck with golden handcuffs this time instead of
right
by a lack of other options.
Okay. Just as a general comment, when I was looking at the 20-year projections for housing, I noticed that would be about the number of houses that currently exist in Nahum, Wheeler, and Manzanito, 2000. Because I was just counting houses the other day. It was like, oh, so in 20 years we have to replace, or in addition, add what we call the Tri-City area north. Everywhere in the town. So if no one has any more observations, or maybe we should move on to Parker and the HPSF framework.
I think if it's okay, let's skip ahead into your letter real quick and we'll hammer that out and then we will move on because then it'll cruise the rest of the time. Before you is a letter I prepared for the Housing Commission in support of a grant application that Sarah has been waiting for help in DLCD. Do you want to explain a little bit more about it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Parker. I'd be happy to. So continuing our work with Senate Bill 406, the first phase of Senate Bill 406 were the residential zoning code updates, which we are either all finished with or on the home stretch with, depending on city and community of the county. But we're almost there. The second phase is the development of a housing capacity analysis and housing production strategies. And Dave Madison, to the question that you asked earlier about data site specific for cities and communities, I think we're going to be able to get at that a little bit better through the HCA process. But with that, like the conversation we're having today really highlights and supports the regional approach that we have decided to go down for a housing capacity analysis and a housing production and development of housing production strategies. DLCD awarded Tillamook County and our city partners $250,000 to do the first phase of Senate Bill 406. So we are back asking for additional support to do the HCA and development of housing production strategies. The Housing Commission will play a huge role in that. The grant application deadline was the 4th. We got our application in last week, but they have encouraged us to take more time to submit letters of support. So the letter before you is to support the second phase of work. We are asking for another round of help and support with DLCD and all housing things related to Senate Bill 406. And then with that, I'm going to include a copy of Todd and Tim's excellent presentation because I think DLCD will really appreciate seeing the work we've done highlighted in their data. So Parker and I are just asking, thank you, Parker, for writing this letter of consideration, but I would love to submit something in writing from support from the commission.
So we presumably should vote on this or discuss.
We think we do for letters, yeah.
Okay. So is there, it sounds like a great idea to me. Any comments or observations from commissioners?
I think we should do it.
Yeah, okay. So a motion, is that, say Dave, a motion?
Are you thinking of just one letter from the commission or individuals?
Yeah, I think that this will be sufficient. The city of Nehalem, city of Wheeler, and city of Tillamook have all provided letters of support as well as the commissioners. So just trying to keep putting together a nice little package to reinforce like we're working together and this is a good thing for us.
Just let it be approved and be sent.
Second.
Second, we've got moved, seconded. Any further discussion? Those in favor online and here, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, that passes.
Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it.
All right.
Good work, Sarah.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you for your help. And Parker, actually, and Mark, I think that pretty much sums up where we're at with the grant too.
Oh.
Just, we'll know next month. Next step for me is to work on the IGAs with the cities in partnership that have to be in place before we get the award. We are asking for the moon in everything, all things HPS and HCA supported. DLCD's been great to work with. Our timelines, we have completion timelines of June 2027 and 2028 to finish that work. So in hopes of an award, I will come back probably to the commission in October And the goal would be to have a kickoff meeting with our new team by the end of the year. So Housing Commission's role in that will be very prevalent and engaged, depending on how much work y'all want to do to help out. So probably going to be radio silent on this for about 2 months and then be back with hopefully some exciting updates.
Did all the cities finish their code?
Almost all of them. We've got a couple that are in their final hearings. And then my board orders will all go to the commissioners before the end of this month for 6 of our 8 unincorporated communities. And I've got 2 left that we are on the home stretch. So 15 communities should be done by the end of the summer. Yeah, it's been an incredible amount of work, but good work.
I think that's pretty much your middle housing code update too.
It is,
Anything-
yep.
Except that next Thursday.
Next Thursday I have Oceanside. So Oceanside will be coming forward. They are asking for additional updates to their development standards than middle housing. Some restrictive standards that are more restrictive than what their codes allow for now, building height and different things. So yes, those hearings start Thursday, and then the last community I have is New County.
So
That's great. It's amazing. You pulled that off.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Park. Thank you.
So do you want to go back to the
I'm
HDSF then?
gonna go ahead on into the Housing Production Solutions Fund. Welcome, Brett.
From DLCD, our great partner.
Okay, so
Every second they get money.
That's right.
Okay, so also before you and available on the website and shared now on the screen is the 2025 Housing Production Solutions Fund Framework. I've taken a lot of feedback from everybody involved, and I think that I've got it hopefully into a form that you guys will like. I've also tried to streamline it, make it simpler, more understandable, and I'm hoping you guys agree. The first page is relatively unchanged, except that we've been a little more specific about when rehabilitation projects are eligible. We're doing 50% of the value of the property must be the project size for it to be applicable for our fund. So no, asking for 20K to remodel a few units, that's not okay. Going on to the second page, these are largely stayed the same as well. Words of grants, maximum award is 20K per unit. And then we will only do pre-development costs one time for your project. You don't just get to come to us every year asking for another small piece of your pre-development stack. And then on to the more things that have changed significantly. And you'll see here, and I've talked about this before, but we've talked about having award ranges for the level of project. Instead of making this a firm and like a hard guardrail, I've just used that this information is based on historical data, that historically these are the sizes of grants that have gone out. And the goal here is really to make sure that the developers applying for our fund have a more clear and accurate view of like what they can expect. It's always frustrating when we see applications and almost everybody's asking for all of the money available, so trying to set expectations a little better and let people know that, yes, we want to help, but this is kind of how our range of help is. I hope that this makes it easier for people to plan in their pro forma and keep it accurate as they seek elsewhere to fill out their funding stack. I've also added just a little bit of definition language to the definitions of what each stage is: initiation, pre-development, and construction. And then here's where things have changed. And for this part of the conversation, I'm going to double breath my items here. One of the reasons why this timeline has changed so significantly since the last time we talked about it is the MERL Fund. And that is the Moderate Income Revolving Loan Fund. I've prepared a short handout for you guys as well in your packet. And this is a program that is developing very quickly. It's something we'll be talking with Regional Solutions about ongoing. And Tillamook County has been identified as a place that's a really good community for kicking off this MERL program. Nobody has yet used MERL. There's only a couple counties and places who are investigating it with any seriousness. Right now, that's my understanding, but we have 2 projects within our county that are immediately kind of perfect fits for MERL. That's the Tillamook Bay Commons project and the Sammy's Place, the Thompson Springs. One of the important things to note about MERL is that in order for a project to be eligible, it has to show a but-for situation, meaning that without MERL, the project would not otherwise be built. And so both Sammy's Place Thompson Springs and Tillamook Bay Commons, this would be last mile funding and getting them over the line and into construction. So it's an incredibly powerful funding apparatus. But part of it is that each of the sponsoring jurisdictions, which Tillamook County is seeking to become one of, must have their own evaluation process in place for the program. And so that we were going to try and use as many of our procedures as we have in place for our Housing Production Solutions Fund. And OHCS has indicated that they will allow those processes to translate over to MERL. Both of those projects need that funding in the next soon. And so we are going to kind of shift our evaluation focus onto getting MERL off the ground in the county. I will then take the MERL program to the cities, really try and get them on board to be doing it as well and have it in place so that when projects that fit MERL come online and in front of them, they'll be able to take advantage of it. But I just wanted to kind of bring this up now in the context of this conversation because I am pushing back the opening of the recommending pushing back the Housing Production Solutions Fund opening so that we can get MERL in place, the 2 projects evaluated off to OHCS. And that will all start to wrap up right around October when we could then be announcing that our fund will be opening in November for 2 months from the beginning of November to the end of December, which is what we did last year. So we are kind of reverting back to that schedule. The difference being that we will be evaluating in January. The presentations will already be done by the time we get to our evaluation period. We will evaluate in January, present in February again, and then awards are in March. This is the best timeline. This is the most equitable to make sure that we can reach to the people we need to and maintain our ability to provide a high quality evaluation. We can come back and take questions on that at the end, but right now I'm just going to try and finish up the rest of the changes that have been made here. These are just defining what the stages are, how it works. Almost all of this is the same. Again, just calling out specifically that we really do need to have our fund out by the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th of this coming year. The other major changes here, the clawback has remained unchanged. Terms and conditions are unchanged. The big change, though, is to our evaluation criteria. And having now discussed this with all of the relevant parties and also that had reviewed by the town council, and looking at what DLCD and other groups are doing with their application process, we are going to shift from moving from like a point-based scorecard system to a more criteria-based system. And so this is where I really want you guys to have a little bit of a review here. But you can see I've broken it up into kind of 3 sections of criteria. The core evaluation criteria, which is very similar to DLCD's language.
Thank you, DLCD.
Thank you, DLCD, yeah. Then the financial evaluation criteria, that is the work of the finance committee. And then the qualitative, which is the work of the overall committee. And what this will translate to, for your experience when we do our application, is instead of having a scorecard with numbers filled out for each section for things like affordability term is this many points and et cetera, you'll be getting a more long form written report calling out and highlighting the merits and concerns on each project from the finance standpoint. So you'll be getting a little more qualified, more information that is better than just numbers on a scorecard. You'll actually be getting the long form, our thoughts, our concerns, which will inform our ability to ask questions of the developers during the presentation. So the idea here is that by the end, we will have a collated document for each project, providing the qualitative, quantitative, and core criteria and how this project met them.
And I think, so thank you, Parker. That was a great explanation. But part of the thing that we have struggled with is, well, I got a lot of points, right? So there's the question of how you award versus the number of points. And when we are visiting with applicants, either during or after a process, when a decision's been made, if the focus is on the points, especially by the applicant, how do we explain sometimes how the outcome of award varied from a strict point-based system? And with a criteria approach, one of the things that I like about it a lot is that it really helps an applicant prepare for what we think you want to hear in a presentation. This is putting them into that space of really addressing equity outcomes, not only the financial piece through the pro forma, but there's a lot of other elements to it. But then with that, if there still was some sort of scoring system to help you, really that type of a system could help you with the criteria approach to then really determine what projects rise to the top that are not strictly point merit based. Because there are some inconsistencies in the approach that we have been taking. So we're trying to find that balance for you.
Yeah, those are major changes. So any questions?
I have a comment, sort of piggybacking on what Sarah just said. And from my experience on the planning commission, where criteria is what it's all about. But that is not always foremost in the mind of a passionate person giving a presentation. And I think it's really important. I love this being criteria based. I think it's going to be really, really, really important that applicants understand that these are the criteria and that somehow they got to channel their passion into addressing these specific things. And that isn't, that it seems obvious when I say it like that, but it doesn't always work out that way. And sometimes it's to the detriment of something good that can happen.
Yeah. And I think part of what I observed from last year is I've got a lot better in understanding how to help coach people to make sure that they are hitting the presentation. I offered that assistance to every single applicant, and I offered to have them do a dry run presentation with me. Not everybody takes me up on it, but I do offer it to everybody, and I do try to hammer home the need to kind of fit into and hit our key points. Also, though, I did include that these are things that are included, and yes, they're important, but there might be other factors and other things that we haven't been able to consider that could rise to the top of being very, very important to our decision making. And this criteria format allows us then to write about what that is and why. And so it removes some of the mystery behind our final decisions and gives us something to point to for other people to see and understand.
And with that, I would say that, because I so much appreciate what you're saying, Gil, especially your role in the planning commission, these aren't appealable criteria. They are still very discretionary, but the whole point of this is to give everybody the same predictable roadmap. Right? I think that's really what our goal is, that predictable roadmap for you, a predictable roadmap for applicants, to where it's clear up front what we're all looking for. What sets a project apart. And really it's coming down to, based on, you want to know about these things. And DLCD does too, because we still see their stuff. But But I mean, it's still intended to be very loose and flowing for you. But it's our goal is to give you that roadmap, make sound decisions. And when an applicant comes back and has questions, we have something to point to as well.
Questions, comments, concerns?
Well, and there's always going to be that subjectivity in our response to it. So criteria, sorry.
No, now we get to note that subjectivity.
Sorry, Kristen, for interrupting you again.
That's okay. We can't see you. I just wanted to note that being on the finance committee for the past couple of years, and anyone who's been on the housing commission when we've discussed this will remember how peculiar it was that our point system didn't match the award. And we had a hard time justifying that and explaining that, and there was no match between where the points came from and the criteria that we ended up using, which pretty much more match these evaluative criteria. So I hope it will work out better as a process overall.
Me too, and hopefully we can get that big finance meeting down a couple hours, because that's a long one.
Do any of these not make sense? Or are we missing anything? I think that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Is there something you don't want? Because this is our first run at it too.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're trying to put together what we anticipate you might want to see.
And trying to find the balance between
To do on the fly.
trying to shift this to a criteria base while also leaving it open and providing confidence and assurity to like what they can expect for the developers. I've tried to strike that balance at every turn here.
Well, and I would say with that, with Parker's proposed timeline, Kristen, we do have time, right? So if this is something that we wanted to bring back next meeting,
Yeah.
everybody has time to really think about it. I think the big thing for us today is if you're supportive of Parker's proposal for the timeline, and what he's proposing is prioritization to focus on Merle. And then that gives us some breathing room to continue this discussion, especially when we have all of our housing commission members, like, it's fair. There's a lot happening, and it's amazing that you are all here today, but like, we have some time.
Yeah, we have some time. We won't make this final approval today. I'll seek final approval next month. I'll let everybody chew on this and provide me with any feedbacks offline, send any comments. We'll have like a 2-minute check on this next time, and that will also be when we start to gear up for announcing it. So we've got some time. If anybody has thoughts or anything that you think should be included, please let me know.
That sounds good. And so long as you don't feel from past discussions that your end of year December gets problematic for you.
Yeah, you know, I think this, as long as we are doing everything from presentation period to writing the contract and getting the money out the door, as long as that is not bisected by the holidays again, I think that we'll be fine.
Okay, yeah.
So I don't think anybody wanted to have the holidays in between this again, but
right.
For now, this is the best I could come up with this timeline that met all requirements.
And I think the key with the grant is just, I mean, we've had a lot of talk about budgets and Fund 122. And I think one of our goals is to try to get the money awarded by the end of the fiscal year, because there's been a lot of carryover, which has generated a lot of confusion. So as long as we get that money out the door by June 30th, I think we're good.
And at the end of this, we will have, at the end of this year's Housing Production Solutions Fund cycle, when we finish up everything, the first thing we're going to do is set the timeline for the following year. But again, things like Merle can come up, and so it will never be a 100% guarantee it'll go on that timeline, but here we are.
No, I think it's great because it's another source of revenue to get houses.
Yeah.
So we should award the punches.
Is this Merle something that we do?
Yes, so diving into Merle, I think is a great transition both to moving away from Housing Production Solutions Fund and into the greater conversation with our regional solution friends. Nate has been tremendously helpful on the Merle program. But yes, we will have an evaluation portion of Merle. So Merle requires that there be a sponsoring jurisdiction, and Nate, you correct me if anything I say is about or wrong here. Requires there to be a sponsoring jurisdiction. In this case, the first one will be the county. We'll do this through a resolution that we'll be taking to the county commissioners in the next few weeks. Once that resolution is in place, we then work with OHCS to develop our evaluation program. And so when a project comes and says, I'd like to use Merle, They will then work with me. We'll go through their financials. We'll make sure that it is a but-for situation, meaning they need to demonstrate that without the Merle funding, their project would not be built, meaning they have to show that there is no other finance source out there that could give them this money and that they could build their project. And we then need to, in the same way that we make our recommendations to the county commissioners with our housing fund, we need to evaluate these projects and then make a recommendation to the county commissioners. And then I will take the project before them with the housing commission's recommendation for approval. So that is why the Housing Commission will be playing an important role, because we are going to try and use as many of the same processes that we do for our housing fund for the Merle program. And that will include, a review from Finance Committee, a review from the Greater Housing Commission. We'll probably invite the project to come and speak to us and talk to us about why Merle is their but-for last mile funding. In this case, the two projects that are immediately being looked at, because they are the projects that are in the county, and both these projects are in a urban growth boundary, but outside the city limits, is the Tillamook Bay Commons project. And just to remind you guys, that has grown to 72 units now. So that project they've gone from 2 to 3 buildings on that site, and they're going to be now using the entire site. They'll be back to talk to us about it when we do their Merle application over the next month or so.
That's Third Street.
Yes. So when we last heard from them, that was a 36 unit project. They have worked to get it expanded and found a way to get another building on that site, use even more of that land. That project has public bond financing secured, but that does not become available as a construction loan until they are able to pay for the permitting and do some land buy down or pay down. Forgive my details here, I don't have these notes in front of me, but basically Merle is going to be the funds that unlock their entire construction funding. That project is also now in a nonprofit with that board, which I am on, as our a couple housing commissioners has now met to discuss this. And we are waiting for our IRS determination letter, which we expect within the next couple weeks. So all the pieces are coming together on that one. The other project that will be immediately applicable for this is Sammy's Place, Thompson Springs. This would also be last mile funding for them. And we'll get both of these projects into the construction phase. So you can start to see why it's so important that we do this now instead of focusing on the housing fund. And then just to give a rundown, I know you guys have seen the little handout I provided, but what Merle is it's kind of like our workforce housing exemption, except instead of taking that as a tax free situation over 10 years, they take all of that money and we give it to the developers now. So the state of Oregon gives a 0% interest loan that is the same value as the projected 10 to 15 years of taxes, depending on which program we go with. They give us some leeway, and one of them is 10 to 15 years of property tax. The state gives us a 0% interest loan for that value, and it goes to the developers for an upfront development funding. And then they pay taxes normally every year, but those taxes go to repay this loan. And that's the basic gist of it. And so instead of getting your money later over 10 years, you get it now to build the thing. So that's kind of the Merle rundown. And any questions?
I guess it seems wonderful, but it seems like it'd be very complex at the point of proving that but for, and that I trust that is not as much of a morass as it.
Oh, it kind of is. But fortunately, OHCS and big props to the OHCS team on this. They've been very on top of it. There's a great collection of minds working on this. They have as simple as you could make a spreadsheet to demonstrate this.
Right.
They have one just for the but for part of it.
Cool.
There's also a very detailed pro forma that they need to fill out that they have all their uses, et cetera, et cetera. It's so good. the finance might consider looking at to have our projects fill out in the same way that OHCS is having these projects fill out. They have a great pro forma template that anybody could do really. So that is kind of, oh, and just to show you guys how cool it is that we have multiple nonprofit housing projects. OHCS didn't really plan on there being nonprofit housing applications. Their pro forma is all geared for profit. And some of the structure of the program was, you can tell that they had never imagined that there would be a nonprofit group coming to ask for these funds for this type of project. So it just shows that once again, we are out in front. We have organizations who are creative and innovative in our approaches to housing.
Parker, has this become then a grant or a loan to the developer?
It is a loan, and the loan is then paid back through the taxes. So your payment on the loan is your taxes.
Now, the taxes to all taxing jurisdiction?
Except for fire, there's a carve out for the fire district to still be paid taxes separately or pulled out from. There is also a 1% that goes to the sponsoring jurisdiction as an admin, or pardon me, to the assessor, and 4% to the jurisdiction, for a total of 5% in administrative costs being distributed through the tax payments as well.
Interesting. That's an interest-free loan basically to the developer repaid. So all the repayments go towards principal reduction.
Correct. There's certain questions like what happens if there is an additional tax assessed to the property, or if we pass a new tax ordinance. One way that I'm trying to work around that is asking for essentially like a 13-year program with 2 additional years to be added on if there are additional taxes that have been levied, so that they get paid and it's not a surprise burden on the development when the program ends. We want to avoid there being a big giant tax bill at the end of the program if other taxes have accumulated once the initial assessment was made and loan issued. Okay. And yeah, and so that I think leads us nicely into our conversations with Regional Solutions. Nate, if you
Again, I'm Nate Stice, I'm the governor's, I'm an advisor of the governor, both in the Regional Solutions Program and also in the housing team, which is really my nexus with the role is in the housing team. The governor has directed Regional Solutions to help get Merle launched. It's been in place now for 2-ish years, and we need to get some money spent. So I'll just start by saying I'm really excited that Tillamook is taking this on. I think it was in some ways designed for places like Tillamook, and you might see Commissioner Scar's fingerprints on it, since she's a part of the Housing Innovation Partnership to help to form the Merle program. I'm happy to report that colleague and I for OHS, I'm going around trying to find sort of early adopters and handed this one off to that colleague, and he came back and said, the Tillamook's awesome. So that was. So appreciate everything you all do. Seeing there's just one fact, but and I actually was sitting back here, Parker, like listening to you describe Merle, and I'm like, I actually think it's like a distinction without a difference, but like it is technically described in the program as a grant to the developer. And I think that it gets like in some weeds that like aren't important for this group. But the repayment actually comes through this whole taxation system on the back end. And like there's questions about like if it's a for sale project, like I think Sammy's place option is like where that repayment comes in. It's just like any other collections on unpaid taxes that you would have, right? Where that ultimately will probably rest with.
That is a good distinction, especially for project
property owner. So, but like it, in all intents and purposes, it kind of is definitely 0% loan to the sponsoring jurisdiction, and then really a kind of a loan to the developer property at the end of the day. So, but that's because I have spent way too much time with my buddy Merle, and I'm gonna give you an earworm that will never go away. Whenever I think about the program, I think about the Dixie Chicks Goodbye Earl song. There you go. You have that gift too. I asked Parker if the Regional Solutions team could come and join you all today to sort of hear a little bit more about what you're doing. I think some folks came in during the housing needs analysis and strategies piece. And I'll just do a brief introduction to what the team is. And then after we meet here, we're gonna go do some internal business over in the other room over there. And then Parker's gonna take some of us around the county to actually go kick some dirt and look at some of the housing projects. So the Regional Solutions Program is the governor's collaborative approach to community and economic development. Our job is really to go sit with communities and empower them to meet their community and economic development goals. And surprise, surprise, housing is like the top of the list everywhere. The team, there's sort of two really important bodies that come along with Regional Solutions. It comes out of the governor's office. So I'm direct staff to the governor. So we have that direct line in, but really the core is a group of state agency and partner staff that meet monthly, or in this case, twice a month, to really work on those community projects that by statute includes the Department of Environmental Quality, Department of Land Conservation and Development. I don't think I need to tell this group what DLCD is. The Oregon Department of Environmental Quality is the state's, works on states, land, air, and water quality. There you go. Business Oregon, which is the state's infrastructure and economic development agency. Department of State Lands is not technically in the statute, but we hang out with them a lot. Oregon House, which regulates the state's wetlands. Oregon Housing and Community Services is online with us here, the state's Affordable Housing Finance Agency. And ODOT, the Oregon Department of Transportation, which is the state's transportation agency. So that's the team. We also include in our work the Economic Development District. So Sarah Lou participates in our monthly team meetings, and we tag in whoever we want to, or we need to, for guests as needed. So, and then the other group is the advisory committee, which is an advisory committee to the governor that includes local stakeholders. So both helps define regional priorities. And also, interfaces with the team to help us think about where we're directing our work. And I'm mentioning that because Commissioner Scar is a member, the Association of Oregon Counties representative on that, and Michelle Bradley, this building we're sitting in, is the convener of that group for the area. I thought what I'd do quickly, just to orient folks to who's in the room, is, if it's okay, Parker, have the team introduce themselves and talk a little bit more about what their agency does. We also have a special guest from an interagency group from HAPO, and I'll have Kieran introduce himself too. So why don't we start?
Oh, you did it. Melissa Graper, I'm the Regional Solutions representative for DEQ, the Department of Environmental Quality. We're the state's regulatory agency for land, water, and air discharge, essentially.
And you've helped with housing in Tillamook.
And we have helped with it. And so I think many of you know my colleague Rita Haberman, who's also on the call. I'd asked her to join us and share this meeting with her and our Regional Solutions meeting, just to talk about some of the cool stuff that we've been, that she's been working with Parker on. So hi Rita, I see you on the screen.
Hey, Melissa.
Oh yeah, that's DQ.
Well, maybe Rita, you got more to talk about.
Yeah, you want to share? I don't know what you shared, what this group know.
I can briefly share a little bit information about what we've been up to. We do have a grant program that we are about to launch. This is EPA funding. It's been in the pipeline for a while, and we're really close to launching it, thanks in large part to Parker's assistance. But basically, we secured $3.6 million to allocate to Tillamook County to support the development of affordable housing. And that'll equate to rebates of $20,000 per unit for 180 units. So that's getting underway. There's also funding of $180,000 to support the county's administrative costs associated with working with DEQ to implement the grant program. So we're super excited about that. Another thing we've been doing is DEQ's built environment team about 2 years ago did some listening sessions. Some of those took place on the North Coast, and we've continued to stay engaged with a number of community members, including the McRaes. And we have, we're in the process of supporting the McRaes to put together a master plan for their 10-acre site, within which they're interested in providing, having a lot of housing there, as well as potentially a housing production facility. So we're strategizing on that. And Nate, I'll keep this fast. Another thing that we are pursuing, and I think this group could be incredibly helpful in this effort, House Bill 3145 passed. That is allocating $25 million to support up to 5 prefab or off-site construction facilities. We think there's good potential for one of those to be in Tillamook County, possibly at the McRae's site. So we're really trying to make the stars align here. And I guess I'll just leave it at that for now. Happy to answer any questions.
We'll go through introductions and we can come back to more conversation. We'll just stay on the screen. I will just one more just to make the connection here with housing and DEQ, especially when it comes to water quality. They're one of our primary poop agencies too. So wastewater is a huge concern, and they both have money that plays in that space.
And we take advantage of that. We've been a program partner the last couple of years in that and are using that money to help landowners with their septic repairs.
Well, both septic and larger wastewater systems. So they're a part of our communal shit show. So Annabelle. We have Annabelle, are you online?
I am.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Annabelle Hernandez Mejia, Community Engagement Specialist with Oregon Housing and Community Services, mostly supporting the Housing Civilization Division, which is your shelters and CAAs for the most part.
And their state's housing finance agency, they do everything from shelter to affordable housing and now into the attainable workforce housing space with the Merle program. And Annabelle, I hope you're taking notes on everything Parker was saying with Merle, so we can take that back and support that.
Did capture some things, and I was messaging Tanisha at this moment.
Mark?
Good morning. I'm Mark Bernard, ODOT Region 2 Principal Planner and representative on the North Coast Regional Solutions team. ODOT's relationship to housing creation mostly involves development review, and the biggest area of focus related to development review for housing creation is access, making sure it's safe, and there can be minimized interference with operations of the state highway system. That's about it.
I don't see anyone else online from this
Melanie?
team. No, Melanie is at the fair.
Ah, yes.
Kids showing.
Yes.
So I think you all probably know Melanie Olson with this Business Oregon and the states. I mean, the main time here is housing, infrastructure finance, right? So water, wastewater infrastructure, They have also recently been getting in the housing infrastructure space. There will be a very small amount of money coming online in a housing infrastructure fund, 10 million statewide, that they'll be doing. Some work is getting up really quickly this fall. And so there are any, I anticipate, I hope to see an application from Tillamook for that, but it's $10 million statewide, so it's going to be a pretty small amount. They also have some, we're hoping to get more for that fund. And it's also one of my projects in the housing team. They also have some money infrastructure planning there as well for housing. So they generally have other programs that they play important roles in water, wastewater, and housing. And Melanie lives in Tillamook County. She's going to knock on our door. Brett?
Hi there, I'm Brett Estes. I'm the North Coast Regional Representative for the Department of Land, Conservation and Development, and I popped into the Housing Commission meetings before, so it's been maybe a few months, but glad to be here again. My service area includes Lincoln, Tillamook, Clatsop, and Columbia counties, and I live up in Clatsop County. And I've been a planner or in local government in the North Coast since 2007. So I know a lot of the issues that you're going through. Our agency provided the grant monies for all the Tillamook County jurisdictions last state biennium to do all the housing planning work. So if you're on the County Planning Commission, I know exactly what you're going through right now. all that planning work. Last biennium, there were 3 jurisdictions who made individual grant asks to DLC, and those were Manzanita, Manhalem, and Rockaway Beach for that housing co-assistance. And then there was a second grant that went to Tillamook County to be able to provide the Tillamook County planning work, and then to be able to coordinate with all the other Tillamook County cities that hadn't applied for that grant work. We wanted, with working with Sarah and Commissioner Starr, I thought it would be just a good idea to be able to have everyone kind of going through the whole code amendment process all at once. And so, as it sounds like you discussed earlier, there's now another grant application that has been submitted to move into the next phase of the Senate Bill 406 housing implementation. And that application was placed by Tillamook County on behalf of all the different cities in Tillamook County. So there were 91 housing grant applications submitted this round statewide. I will say that Tillamook County's jurisdiction is within what's called the Tier 1 criteria, meaning that there's a statutory requirement that triggers the work that you're doing. And so, it falls within that area. There, in my area at least, there are 2 other jurisdictions that have statutorily required housing capacity analysis work, Lincoln City and Astoria. Both have that work, which is also statutorily required this go round. So the review of the grants has kicked off already. We're looking at getting a response back to all the jurisdictions in late September as to whether or not funded or not. But it's at least being a Tier 1 application, just want to convey at least that there is that higher level of prioritization in your application because of the passage of Senate Bill 406.
That's just gonna say, so right, so the key why we are prioritized in that Tier 1 group is because of Senate Bill 406.
That's correct.
So that's, a great thing that came out of that process, because if we did not have Senate Bill 406, our work would not hit that Tier 1 category.
That's correct. There are other jurisdictions that have applied for housing capacity analyses across the state, which maybe are below a threshold, a population threshold. you know, it's typically a city of 10,000 people is when it kicks in. And so there are jurisdictions that have applied for that housing capacity analysis work, but it just doesn't fall with it. And they may be funded. We just have to see how it all shakes out. It's the Astoria and Lincoln City are both triggered above the 10,000 population threshold, and they're due for needing to do that work now.
I just want to do a time check for you all. We're okay to stay a little bit longer if you want us to.
Our people are cool with that.
Mark, I am so excited that we have someone here from HAPO. You guys
Yes,
have
I
heard.
might,
I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
I'm gonna do the time check also, so while Karen's talking, I can message the rest of my team and tell them we're gonna be late to our next week. So.
Try and get you out on time, but we can go over if we need to.
I was gonna say, if it goes over, I'm gonna need to step off. I've got one of those children showing a pig here shortly, so I have to go do my fair duties.
Good luck.
So we're done with voting and stuff.
Yeah, totally. And I think we can skip committee updates. Most of the committee updates got included into the Housing Production Solutions Fund update. And the only thing that outreach would say is that we'll be putting this information out there as it gets out. If that's okay with everybody.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
We all want to hear about HAPO.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Commission and county staff. I'm Kieran Turnbull with the Housing and Accountability and Production Office. And this is a new office that was created in the 2024 legislative session. And it's a joint office between DOTD, so I'm Brett's colleague, and the Building Codes Division of Oregon. And essentially we house a bunch of subject matter experts on housing law related to land use and building codes. So we're a resource to local governments, developers, or other interested parties who are interested in learning more about housing law related to land use and building codes. And there's a lot of it out there, and a lot of it has passed in recent years, especially related to land use. And there's like a number of different incentives in the statute for developers that make it easier to build housing. So we really want to be a resource for you all and also developers that you might know and other local governments to really make it easier to understand these complex statutes. And we plan on creating guidance to further elaborate on different housing laws and hope to engage with you all to further this work. I guess another part of our office is the legislature also directed us to be kind of a convener of different state agencies when it comes to housing work. So as you just listened in, there's so many different agencies within the state that touch on housing, like DEQ, ODOT, Business Oregon. And oftentimes it can kind of be hard for local governments or developers to locate the resources they need or get the right person on the phone. So we kind of act as like a funnel. So you can just reach out to us with any housing related question related to the state, and we'll make sure you get connected to the right person. So we're also acting that like kind of connector role. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of what our office is here to do, and happy to answer any questions if you have.
HAPO also has a really great intake form that's really easy to use on their website. And I've been encouraging all of the projects that have any sort of active development to fill that out and get connected with HAPO through their intake form. That's the best way, I think, correct? Yeah, to start the process of working with them. So if anyone's online, has a project or has questions, I encourage you to go to the HAPO website, and there's a link to their intake.
What does it stand for again?
Oh, yeah. Housing Accountability and Production Office. Yeah, I know there's so many different acronyms.
So when we worked through all these residential zoning code updates with the cities, HAPO had an opportunity to review those, right? Because we have an obligation to make sure that their mission collectively to address and respond to housing needs in an equitable manner are met. And I think I would recommend, if you're able to come back at a later date, it would be wonderful just to have a presentation maybe about HAPO. Just because you guys are doing some amazing work.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And I guess just a personal connection to the area. A lot of my family were dairy farmers in Tillamook, but I live in Portland, so always happy to like come out to Tillamook. I've been to the fair every year, and I just got back from camping at Cape Lookout for the last couple days. Yeah, always happy to come out.
Hey, Sarah,
Yes.
one thing, and then if David Madison, yeah, still online. One thing, that's kind of a new pivot for city and county staff. In the past, whenever there were kind of some of these technical questions and you would reach out to Sean Edging, what is requested now is that if you would, use the intake form that Kieran had, mentioned, because that goes to Sean and Sean can assign, the question to the various HAPO staff. And so, you know, there's like more people, more depth to be able to get questions answered. So if there's things that you reached out to him in the past, use that intake form.
Noted. Thank you.
And I'll send that link around to you all after this meeting, so you can just have it handy and also some more information on our office.
That'd be great. I might even put a link up on our website to it.
Well, one of the things I would say in the department, we've always struggled with when someone calls and says, you know, maybe there's landlord rental issues. There's, you know, rental condition issues and challenges and different things. I think one of the things that we're thankful for now is that, you know, this is for landowners too. This is for renters. Like HAPO is here to serve a lot of different folks, not just government agencies. And I'm really appreciative that for those things that we cannot address or we don't know where to send folks to when they have a challenge or question, we at least now have a body, you know, an entity to connect folks to for help. So we really appreciate that at the local level very, very much.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
There's a couple layers of HAPO that I just want to touch on too, and I was excited to see recently some higher level agency coordination. So the governor just tasked HAPO in the legislature, but really this is like a Tina Kotek plot from the beginning. With identifying barriers to housing production and coordinating agency policy and programs front too. So there's a world where I think Kieran and the regional solutions team live, which is like we're on the ground and we're gonna be linked at the hip here in helping to like navigate with teams and programs on things, right? So and I think you already heard about where like the regional solutions team is working with housing production and coordinating sort of agency engagement on some of it. So there's that level where we live on. They've put together a great framework that we're working on and thinking about how we all work together on. But then at a higher level, you know, state housing, but the SHIP state
Innovation Partnership.
State Housing Innovation Partnership, which is bringing together a lot of the agencies in this room and a few others to say, okay, how are all these programs working together? So like, we'll pick on Melanie since she's in here. Hey, Business Oregon, you have all of these infrastructure programs. How are we making sure that they're meeting the state's goals around housing at this particular moment? Or EQ, ODOT is maybe not the one to pick on at the moment. Officially be nice to ODOT month. You know, you have, oh geez, I'm forgetting the name of the program where they do the industrial last mile funding for transportation.
Immediate Opportunity Fund?
Yeah, you have the Immediate Opportunity Fund that's really focused on industrial development, which we need to talk about in our state desperately.
Yes.
But for years and years, I've been trying to make that broad its purview and think about how it plays with housing as well. So, you know, thinking about like how there might be some tools in other agencies to focus on housing as well. So that's where I think the ship will set sail. There's also sort of an implementation piece, which I'm still learning the difference between that and SHIP, where they're sort of looking at how different housing policies have been implemented. It's like a SEEP or something.
The SEEP.
I don't know.
I might be also lost on the acronyms.
Yeah. Great, and they're acting so, but there's several layers that are happening at sort of this level. Well, we're down here. Navigating. So glad to have Apple sort of really a close engagement with the governors, so like all levels of their work as well.
Can you add to that pot of $10 million that's for infrastructure? It's like not enough.
I mean, what we're hoping to only use this report here. It is. State budget's gonna be. Okay. Like, I don't want to like mince words about it, like, and whoever is taking official minutes, don't quote me on that, like, I think the state budget was less than we expected. Right, the revenue forecast that sort of dictated the final budget was a lot less than we expected. We requested. I should know this since it was the bill that I worked on, but my brain has been built by two children under two, parental leave in between there. We requested 100 million, I think, this session for this program and got 10. And a part of that's a budget environment, and 10 that has been sort of tied up by the legislature until they see the program design for Business Oregon and the list of funded projects for that. And so they're required to bring back that list to Business Oregon and to the legislature, sort of required to bring back that list to the legislature in February. So we're now doing the hustle up exercise to stand up the program and bring back our list and bring back demand that shows that we need more than 10 million in that fund. And HACL has a role in helping define some of the criteria around that. There's a lot of criteria that are called out in the bill. But so, I mean, I hope we get applications in from Tillamook County to help show that demand, especially from a rural county. I mean, I actually think for some of the projects that we're thinking about for Merle and its infrastructure fund, we're actually meant to be two sides of the same coin, sort of on-site and site infrastructure development. So I think there's a good story and narrative to be told there with some of the items that you're bringing forward, but I hope we get 500 million. If we got like 200 million in applications for the 10, I think that will show that there's a real need for.
Adam Nielsen online. I hope you and Nate are able to connect. If not, I'll help connect you guys.
So we're working on it, and if the Housing Commission would like to, sign a letter of support for more funding for it, we welcome that support. So
A month from today, then.
Let's wait until we get it in February.
Yeah, I guess just related to that topic, in the last legislative session, I know the legislature funded around over $100 million in similar housing infrastructure, but they directly allocated it to certain projects. So there wasn't a program set up to intake applications from developers or local governments to be like, we need housing related infrastructure funding. It was kind of on like a case by case basis, come to the legislature and we'll write your name into the bill. So I think this program is a really big step in that direction because it opens like an application for everyone, sets clear criteria for like what the priorities are, similar to what you are working on with your HP asset fund. So I think it's like a really great step in the right direction to create some more like clarity around how the legislature is going to fund housing related infrastructure in the future.
The legislature will always do some sort of pork barrel spending. This program was originally Senate Bill 1537 with Merle, and then the legislature moved those applications to direct applications theory for quote shovel ready projects. I will tell you, most of those projects had to go back for reauthorization because none of them were really shovel ready. And so the hope is that we actually find real shovel ready projects like Sammy's Place or others that we can fund with a pretty quick turnaround in the program that Business Oregon is designing. And Business Oregon is good at figuring out what's really shovel ready, right? Like they're better at that than our elected representatives. Good at other things positive, but that's one of the key criteria is like the actual units in the ground. So, any other questions for?
But thank you so much for joining today, and I look forward to touring you guys around and showing some of the project sites, and yeah.
Are you gonna take them to the raw property?
We might go by.
It's just the four of us.
Okay, great.
I think, is there anyone online who's coming to the tour this afternoon?
I was hoping to, but I'm not able to, hopefully in another occasion.
We'll go over, we're gonna meet at the food pod. Until. Huh?
Good play.
Yeah.
Good place.
That's gonna be our meeting location.
So any public? Well, any more comments or questions on this? We can move to we'll skip the committee updates and go directly to the final public comment. Here or online, anyone have comments? Okay, then I'll adjourn at 11:08.
Mark and Annabelle, we're gonna move over to the other teams now. We'll probably be like, give us 5 minutes.
Parker.
Sounds good.